Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff St Laurent, and this is the Tuesday Live Show. But this isn't just any Tuesday Live Show. This is the first Tuesday Live Show of 2019, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be launching a new year with each and every one of you as we embark upon transitioning our business from wherever it is now to a full-time coaching business. And when I say a full-time coaching business, what I mean is a full-time coaching income that you're getting from your business. And that's a very, very important thing, because time does not matter when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, because we don't get paid for time. If you get paid for time, that means you have a job, right? You have a job, you get paid salary, or you get paid per hour. That's you show up, you get paid. You don't show up, you don't get paid. Whereas in entrepreneurship, we get paid for results. So it doesn't matter how long you spend in your office or how short amount of time you spend in your office, you get paid for the results you create within that time. So we're going to be really taking the time today to set some set some expectations, but more importantly, educate some expectations so that you can end this year on a high. Before we get started, I want to let you know some resources that I have for you all, because I'm really big as I help coaches transition to that full-time business, that full-time income. I'm really passionate about what I do in terms of how I help you do that. I have a lot of great stuff, just like the Tuesday Live Show. I do all these recordings. I put them in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. So if you go to the university, you can check that out. Right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, I have a fantastic resource, and it's starting up your full-time coaching business, your first 3 vital steps. So that's a very important piece I want you to check out. Enter your name and email address. You'll get access to that instantly. And that's also a great way to stay connected with what I'm doing throughout the year as we embark upon this great stuff. Also on sellingcoaching.com, you can find out about my private Facebook group right at the top of the page. We're going to be doing a lot of cool things in there this year as well. And I'm also available for one-on-one mentor coaching should you know that you really want to be doing this and you know you need some help. I'm available for that. Just go to the Work With Me page, go to the bottom, fill out the form, and we'll create a relaxed conversation from there, because I will absolutely follow up with you from there. But for today, we're going to talk about setting your expectations to go full-time. And setting expectations, or as I like to say, educating your expectations, is a really important thing. Now, let me start this off today by saying this. As we embark upon a new year, everyone's doing this New Year's resolution thing. It's like the thing to do, right? And I'm going to set goals in my life, right? And why we do it on January 1st versus, July 1st or October 1st. Well, it makes sense, right? It's the start of a calendar year. It's symbolizing starting fresh and things like that. But the problem with that, and I'm going to relate this back to selling, because obviously with Selling Coaching, the name of my business, as I help coaches transition to full-time and I mentor with them, everything we do, I relate back to selling. And selling, as if you're a student of mine, has a couple components to it. And one of them is obviously we have to have a need. We have to have a need that we really want to do something about. And then in order for us to actually do something about it, buy something or take action on something, the timing of that need has to be right. So when we talk about January 1st or a new year, and we talk about these New Year's resolutions, or in this case, we'll talk about New Year's expectations, what happens is, yeah, you have a need. So if you're here, you're listening to this, you're watching the recording of this, you probably have a need. You probably have a want in terms of you wanting to do a full-time coaching business. You want to do this coaching thing. You probably love it. What most people don't assess with a New Year's resolution and or expectation is the timing of it. If the timing isn't right, what's going to happen is, and this is why most people, and I'll make up a statistic, 90% of people who make a New Year's resolution have given up and are quit by the end of January. I'd be willing to bet that's a pretty real statistic, or pretty close to it. The reason why they've given up or quit within the month is because they never assessed the timing of this New Year's goal. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some New Year's expectations. So you're not just setting these expectations or setting these goals rather, and by the end of January or sometime close to that afterwards, just kind of not doing that. Because the worst thing that we could do, and this goes back to our expectations, is not following through with them, number one, and or feeling like we failed at them or worked our asses off to potentially go them, and the expectation was an incorrect one, or one that maybe we never should have made in the first place, or let's say an ignorant expectation. And yes, there are ignorant expectations, just like there are stupid questions, and just like there are bad ideas, right? So don't let everyone ever tell you, don't judge a book by its cover. People do judge a book by its cover. These are all truths that people, I guess, ignorantly tell you to ignore, but these are the realities of the real world. Right. So if you set ignorant expectations and we don't educate them around them, so what happens is you fail and you're demoralized and you're down. And that's a problem, because when you get in that state, that's a very bad state to be in. It's hard to get out of that state. You'll spend thousands of dollars and or months getting out of that state. And that can set you back. And that can also set you up for a limiting belief, meaning now you believe that you can't do it or it's not possible. Right. And those are the things that moving forward in a business, the biggest challenge of entrepreneurship, as I like to say, is right here, right? It's the beliefs we have in our head, because with entrepreneurship, we are the business, we are the message, we are the branding. A lot of mentoring clients, when they come to me, sometimes they'll say things like, oh, I hired a branding expert, and they're helping me come up with my client avatar, or I'm trying to decide on my client avatar. And it's like, you're the avatar. You're the brand. It's you. It's you at a point in your life when you had a challenge or came out of a hole or did something amazing or whatever it is. We can look to your story, but you're the avatar. You're the message. And that's why it becomes a difficult thing, because if we're not confident in our message and confident within ourselves and have that self-belief, and sometimes right away it's hard to have that, especially when you're doing something new and, oh my God, I got to broadcast live, or I got to make a video, or I got to do a seminar. I've got to actually write an email about something about what I do and who I'm helping and why I'm helping them. That could be overwhelming. So we really want to get to this spot right now of starting this year off right. And what the first thing I'm going to tell you is, in terms of your expectations or any goals that you set, is let's consider not setting any goals. Let's not set any goals. And everyone nowadays is saying, especially in this new year, say, oh my God, we're going to set, what goals have you set? What goals have you set? What resolutions have you set? And I'm saying, don't set any. And here's how I roll, and I'll explain this. And I got into the whole goal thing when I launched my coaching business back in 2004. This is my 15th year in business. I'll be celebrating it mid-year. I'll be letting you guys know about that. But this is my 15th year in business, doing this full-time, earning a full-time business, consistent six-figure results. And when I've done that over that time, when I got into it, I started off with setting goals, because it was the right thing to do. And it's because every guru out there was saying set goals. And what I often realized was some goals I set, number one, I shouldn't have set those goals because I didn't know enough about it. And they were definitely way too big of me to set, and they were unrealistic expectations. But also some goals I set, I felt like as I was getting closer to the goal, I knew I was going to surpass it. I tended to slow down. And it wasn't necessarily a conscious thing. It was more of a subconscious thing, is that goal was actually limiting me. Because I could do way more than that. I remember the first year I set to, I wanted to do six figures this year, and it was actually my second year when I hit that out of 2000. It was 2005, and I remember very specifically, I was like, oh, I want to do six figures. And what I realized was I not only hit six figures, but I went past. I think I did 123 that year, and I was like, wow, I went pretty far past that. And that was the first year I remember thinking, I almost feel like by setting that goal of six figures limited me, because I feel like I could have done much more, because as I realized there was a point where I hadn't done it yet, but I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I got this. Oh my God, I'm going to do this. And the second you realize you got this and you let your guard down, that's when you can lose. And I compare that to athletics. If you're in a competition and the second a team feels like, oh, we're up by 20, we're going to win this game, guess what happens? That doesn't mean that they won't win the game, right? I mean, I more than achieved my goal, but the point is the second you feel that, we're up by 20, we're gonna blow this team out, we're gonna win the game, and you let your guard down, that's the little window of opportunity where the other team can sneak in. The next thing you know, it's a tie game and you lose it, right? And you may still win that game, but the thing about it is that's demoralizing. You can lose the game, or you can win a game, by a couple points. But if you're up by 20 going into the last 2 or 3 minutes, and then you only win by 2 points, doesn't feel like a win, doesn't? And that's why I really want to bring this concept to you and educate your expectations and consider, okay, if you're going to set goals and that's how you work, some people work well that way. They are accountable to those things. Great. But also consider this is the way I operate, and this is what I learned, and I've worked with my mentoring clients on this as well, is that And sometimes you don't set a goal because I know the things that I want to do. I know the things that I'm going to accomplish this year, the things that I'm energetically on board with and aligned with. And I say that purposely because if I'm energetically aligned with something and it's aligned with my values, with my integrity, with my passions, and also the timing's right in my business, I don't have to like sit down and write all that stuff out. We're all intuitive beings. We all have intuition. It's just a matter of how much we trust that or not. Right? It doesn't mean you're born and you had an intuition bypass. It's like, oh, this person doesn't have any intuition. No, it's just they don't utilize their intuition. They don't trust their intuition. There's a big difference between that, right? So if I'm energetic aligned with it, I trust it, I know it, the timing's right. I don't have to sit down and write all that out. Like it's there. I go after it. And I don't have to think about it. And I have to plan it all. I have to just structure it all out. It naturally starts to structure and form as I move forward. And yeah, any things that I do need to sit and take the time to write out, it happens when it needs to happen. But I don't have to sit down and write, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the year, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, maybe I can jot it down if that's what you need to see. But when I set out on something, and I would venture to say that if you think back to how you've done things in your life, the big things that you've accomplished that you were really behind and you went after, did you really have to sit down and write those things out and plan it all out? And maybe there's a small percent of the population that's very logic-based and thought-based where that's how they work. If you're that person, then I'm not saying don't do that. Do that. But the vast majority of people they're emotion-based. Everyone's emotion-based in some ways, but the emotion, it drives their buying decisions. There's very few people that make logical buying decisions. You may think you do because you have to think it over, but you've already bought it inside. It's just a matter of you rationalizing, let's say, the money to spend on the trip, on the TV, on the whatever, right? On the coaching, right? That's the rationalization process. That's not the logical process, but your heart's already there. You've already bought in, so to speak. And once you've bought in, the other stuff is just outside logistics to it. So when you're thinking about moving forward and setting your expectations, you got to start looking at your businesses. How successful are you going to be this year? Do we really have to look at that? Like there are some clients that come to me and I don't judge my clients in terms of, oh, you're going to be successful or not, because you never can tell with somebody. But as someone comes into it, you can start to see right away where this client's going to go or not, depending on what's going on in their world, depending on where they're at. And I can help people through anything. And the thing is where I'm going with this is that some people aren't ready. They're not energetically there. And you can't always tell that. Sometimes our wants and our ambitions can cloud our judgment in terms of the timing of something. So what I teach with my mentoring clients is when the sales process that I help them with is the qualification process before we're, let's say, giving out a complimentary session, right? And so when I get someone to a complimentary session for me, a complimentary mentor coaching session, 100% of those people move forward and hire me. And you say, well, Jeff, how do you get 100%? Are you, it's not just because, yeah, I'm good and I've worked at the skill set of selling. It's what I teach, obviously, but it's not because of that. Selling is that qualification process. It means that, like last month, as an example, I spoke with 7 different people over the course of the month as potential leads, right? Only 2 of them I invited to a complimentary mentor coaching session. Now, both of those people end up signing on with me and hiring me. But I talked, and prior to those 7 people, I had a lot more conversations that led to 7 people actually having a qualifying call of about 10 to 15 minutes, right? But of that, I only gave 2 of them a complimentary mentor coaching session because the other 5, the timing wasn't there. And even some of them were like, no, I want to do this. I want to move forward with you. And it wasn't like I was stopping them, but I was like, well, let's take a look at some of these things. And after asking some of the questions, they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I probably should take care of that first. Oh, yeah, I should probably talk to my boss at work first to see if they're even going to allow me to do something on the side in the meantime, if that's a conflict of interest or not, as an example, right? And so the reality was the timing wasn't there, right? So that's a thing where we've got to start to do with ourselves this year is we're going to start to take a look at your ambition of what does a full-time business look for you? And instead of like sitting down and writing it all out, oh, here's what I'm going to do, and here's how much I'm going to earn, and here's how many clients I'm going to get per month. It's like, what are you even basing that on? Like I got people come to me sometimes or in conversation, I'll see them post in different groups and like, oh, I'm going to get 5 new coaching clients this month. It's like, you are? Well, how do you know that? Right? So here's one thing I want to talk to you about is that you can't set results-based goals. So of all if you're going to have goals or other expectations that you're going to set, what I've learned is you can't set result-based goals. I'm going to earn $5,000 this month. I'm going to earn $25,000 this month. I'm going to earn 6 figures this year. All right, you fill in the blank. I'm going to get 5 clients this month, right? I'm going to get 30 people to come to this event. Doesn't mean you can't say it, but you can't set results-based goals because you can't guarantee what results are, right? If you've done actions enough, you can take a look at what the results I've gotten from those actions, and then you can base it well on, if I continue with these actions, I should expect to get statistically these results. But what I want you to rather set expectations on, or more hard goals on, in terms of or activities each and every day, aren't results-based goals or activities, but rather activity-based goals. So in other words, I want to make 10 calls. I want to make 10 calls today. I'm going to approach 5 people to ask if they'd consider working with me, right? Those are things you can do. Like at the end of the day or the week or the month or the year, you can say, did I do them or not? You have complete control. But if you do those things on a repetitive basis, and you're talking to 10 new people a day, whatever talking means, if you take a look at that, whatever that means is you can talk to 10 people a day, but then we can say, well, out of those 10 people a day, if I talk to 10 people a day, it's 70 people a week, right? Let's just say that's 280 people on a 28-day month. Out of those people, how many of those people did I create a further conversation with? Did I actually have on a qualifying call or make an approach with to ask if they'd ever consider hiring with me? How many of those people, after I qualified, where I offered them a complimentary mentor coaching session or coaching session in your case, and how many of the people ended up hiring me, right? So those are the results that you can get from that initial activity-based goal, right? So that's what I want you starting to think about more about, is not just the big end goals, because what happens is that's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. That's just a lot of like, oh my God, it's the new year and I'm gonna do 6 figures this year and I'm gonna do this. And it's just like, where are you getting this from? And you also have to recognize it from this standpoint. It's just like, and I relate to other areas too. I'm gonna lose 50 pounds this year. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, or I'm gonna start playing tennis, or I'm gonna change my relationship and I'm gonna get close, or I'm gonna find someone this year in my life, or maybe parenting goals or things like that. How can you expect to go from 0 or close to 0 to hero or 6 figures or whatever? And it's like, don't expect to do that, right? And you're setting yourself up for failure to do that. Is it possible? It's absolutely possible. But in order to get there, you got to know how to get there. You got to see how to get there. So when I say going from 0, whatever that means for you, even if you've been doing something, that's your 0, because you're starting, right? So even if you have some level of activity, that's your ground floor. So in other words, I'm growing into this year with my ground floor being X, whatever X is, right? You're going into this year, your ground floor, wherever X is for you. It doesn't matter how high or low, how much you earned last year, how many clients you got, whatever activities, a lot or none, right? That's your 0, right? But you can't expect to go from 0 to wherever you're going, especially if you're not trained, right? So in other words, especially if you don't know what you're doing, especially if you really don't know how you're going to get there, if you don't have the structure to get there, if you don't have the consistency to get there, how do you expect to go from exercising 0 days a week and joining a gym that you got from a membership for Christmas or holidays, and then going, I'm going to go every single day this week, every single day? It's like, no, you're not. So stop lying to yourself about things that you want to do that deep down inside you don't believe you can do. Because what's happening is you're setting yourself up for failure. And it sounds good, but yet what's going to happen is I want you to take a step back, and before you start making these proclamations, I want you to take a step back and be like, what I really want, what I really believe. You just start taking a look at, what do you believe? Can you set an expectation of something more realistic, not a result goal, but if you're going to have some hopes or wants, and let's say you've been earning $0 a month last year in your coaching business, right? And you're going to this year, it's like, can you earn your first $100? Can you get your first client? Could you know what I mean? Could you do something that's a little bit more achievable and see where that goes? I got off the phone right before this live show with one of my clients, and she's doing phenomenal this year. And now I've been working with her for 2 years now. So this has been this big wind up and a lot of activity in there. But this person's, they're getting coaching clients. They get their coaching rate up to over $3,000, for their sessions. They're filling 60 people in events. We're helping them structure now these series of events where they start off, they're writing a book. I mean, we're doing some massive things with this person. We're scaling their business up to a, multiple 5-figure monthly business, and they're doing well. But this isn't like, they didn't go from like just starting this off to, this is like over the course of the last few years. And then prior to that, it's decades worth of entrepreneurship, because this person was an entrepreneur with other businesses as well. So they had that background. They had some of this understanding. They did some selling with some of the work that they did prior to this, right? So there's this build up to get there. It's not just like, I've been an employee and I've been doing this my whole life, and now all of a sudden I'm going to switch to become an entrepreneur, and I'm going to do this business, and I'm going to work from home. And it's like, that's like saying like, I'm going to move to Mars and I'm going to survive on Mars. Like, how do you plan on doing that? This is a whole new planet. This is a whole new world. And even sometimes for entrepreneurs, just because you've been an entrepreneur doesn't mean, and I've got people all the time that like, oh, I've been an entrepreneur and I've done sales. Like I've done sales. I've medical equipment sales. I've sold, you fill in the blank, right? And they're selling. And now all of a sudden, when they come to selling a service-based business, coaching is a service-based product. You're selling yourself. It's a completely different ball game, right? There's some core elements of selling that are the same no matter what you're selling, but in terms of the output of it, is I can't go sell medical equipment right now. Like I can't do that. Even if I started studying it, I mean, I'd have some confidence around it, but it's a different world. That's like saying I'm going to go to Mars and I'm going to survive. I can't do that. Doesn't mean I couldn't do it if I really wanted to do it, but that's what I want you to start looking at it for yourself is stop lying to yourself and stop saying all these things that sound grand and sound good coming out of your mouth, but aren't really going to happen, or especially if you don't believe that they're going to happen, and start to take a look at it as what do I want? And I'm not saying like you can't set goals. I'm not saying don't ever set necessarily the results-based goals. It's nice to have some of those things superficially, but don't base everything you're doing around those result-based goals. At some point, you've got to break that down. And if you're going to say, and especially some smaller ones, is I want to get my first client this month, this quarter, this year. Get your first client first and say, okay, well, what did I do, and how long did it take me in order to get that, right? And so if it takes you a day, a week, or a month, maybe a quarter, it takes you a quarter to get your first client. Well, how did I get that person? The worst thing for you to end up on that other side is go like, well, I have no idea. I remember in my business, because I started off blindly in my business back in 2004. I achieved some great results, but I was hustling. I was going after it. I started working with mentors, and I really wasn't paying attention to all the things I'm talking about to you now. So I got to the other end of the 6 figures. I'm doing this, and every year or every day or every month, it felt like I was starting from scratch. And it was actually an awful feeling because I didn't know how I was creating my results. I didn't have any structure. I didn't have any systems. And of course, over the course of that 10, 12 years before I started helping coaches transition and mentoring them, is I started understanding what I need and structuring my business. And I'm like, oh, okay, now this is duplicatable. And oh, now this can be consistent, as opposed to just showing up in my office every day because I'm ambitious and I'm young and I'm earning money and I'm going after it. I'm hustling, but I have no idea how I'm getting there. I'm creating those results, right? And that's why I'm so passionate about helping coaches like you mentor them and setting up some structure in their business and making it duplicatable and setting it up so you can be consistent, is because I don't want you to just wake up every day and go in your office and go, oh, what am I going to do today? Maybe I'll do an event, or maybe I'll do a Facebook Live, or maybe I'll send an email, right? Or maybe I'll go on Facebook, or maybe I should go on LinkedIn, or where should I go? I don't know. I'm just going to try Instagram today and see how it works out, right? That's not a way to run a business. That's a way to go insane really quick. And some people create results that way, but they can't structure it, and they can't back it up, and they can't duplicate it. And this is month after month. If you're going to be earning a full-time income, you've got to do it consistently. So I really want you to take a step back, take a look at some of these things, and really tame yourself a little bit to say, okay, what do I want to start? What do I want to do? What's one small, simple thing that I want to go and achieve? And then what are some of the actions, specific actions I can start to take to achieve that? And then once I've achieved that, take a look at, okay, what have I been doing along that way? And so to get that client, here's what I did. I did X, I did Y, and I did Z. And I did it every single day. I did it every single week. And it took me, a month and a half to actually get that client. Okay, so let me continue with those things. And now in the next month and a half, if I'm doing the same things, that I get another client, am I starting to see some type of pattern? Oh, I've got another client, and it only took me another week. Okay, so let's start writing that up and writing that out. And so start tracking some of that stuff, and let's start to know our numbers. Like, you're a business. And it's funny because in my live sales conversations group, livesalesconversations.com, for those of you that want to check that out. But one of the things that we've been looking at is their numbers, because I've been working with those people for a good year plus, some of them. And I'm like, so what are your numbers for the year? What have you been doing? I give them numbers to track. What are the key performance indicators in our business? Right? We're not tracking everything. Otherwise, you're going to go insane. You're not a statistician, right? Right. So, but there are some key statistics that we need to track in our business. I said some of them earlier here in terms of, discovery sessions or in our qualifying comp calls, and then our people that are hiring you, and then something else in terms of actually your retention rate and how many people are rehiring you. That's an important thing. We need to have people rehire you. Otherwise, you're only good as your last client if that's the only product or service that you're selling right now. But the point is we need to start to know our numbers, especially moving to this year. So going back to what I said right now is you set a small goal, or you set something there and break down the activities, and then you can have daily results based on that, or daily activities based on that. How long did it take me? But for the first year, start to know your numbers, start to know your statistics, right? If I were to go into the back end statistics of my business, I could start telling you, it's like I have expectations in terms of my activities on a daily, weekly basis, and I do those, and I can see if I'm not up to par on those, or if I slack off a little bit, because I'm human and I do that, believe it or not. It's like sometimes I'm not on top of my game as much as I am on others, but I have some core expectations that I never slack off on, and then I have above and beyond expectations that I can hit. In some days, or if I'm taking a vacation, or if I'm just tired, sometimes I don't hit those, but I can see those and how they affect my results to the point where I can have more or greater expectations, but they're not just wild expectations. Tying this in full circle is they're educated as expectations. So in other words, I'm like, this is what my graph looks like versus that. This is manageable. This is where my energy can go. Whereas if I'm up here and down here and up here and down here with my expectations, because my hopes are high and then I come crashing down and I'm up here, boom. And that's emotionally exhausting. That can put you out of business. That can put you out for a month or two because you're so emotionally exhausted. That can kill your business financially. That can financially kill you. You can start doing Facebook ads with the wrong idea, with the wrong copy, for the wrong thing. And then next thing you know, you're out of business because you spent, $50 a day, $100 a day, $10 a day, even over the course of time, and you're not getting results, or you're getting some type of results, but you're not converting on the back end. So it's like you're doing things blindly, and it's easy to spend money. Sometimes it's even easier to spend energy in this type of a format, and that exhausts you. And what this does is, especially when you hit the bottom, each time you go up, your up isn't as high. The peak isn't as high. So you come down and you hit just as hard, but then you go like this, and then you're less willing to go as high and push as hard, because when you hit the bottom, that bottom is a negative belief that's developed. Even if it's not huge, depending on how tragic the event is or how hard the crash is, even the small ones, that starts to develop, if you will, let's say a limiting belief in yourself that, see, it didn't work. See, I can't do this. And you keep hitting that bottom. And at some point when you're up here, even on the way up, you're like, wow, the shoe's going to fall, or I can't wait to hit the bottom because I know that's where I'm going to end up. And guess what happens is you're not looking up. You're always looking down. So you're going up, but you're always looking down. You're going like, when's the bottom going to drop out? And then when the bottom drops out and as you're falling and after you hit, you go like, see, I knew this would happen. And that's what I want to prevent is let's not go too high. Like, let's just jump, just hop a little bit, right? When I was a personal trainer, I didn't have someone get on a box and let's do a 36-inch box jump. It's like, all right, why don't you step up onto a 6-inch step, and let's do that for a minute, at your own pace first. And oh my God, you can't even make that minute because your heart rate's out or your legs are burning. Okay, well, let's do it for 30 seconds. And let's work our way up to a minute. And then after, maybe 2 or 3 months, let's put another riser up and let's do 8 inches. Right? And then let's do 10 inches. And then maybe by the end of the year, they're jumping onto a 6-inch box, right? Like, let's do that progression. That's the same thing I want you to do with your coaching business.